Our last topic of the day, we're going to talk about a team that is super hot right now, the Cincinnati Reds. It feels like it's going to be an ongoing discussion. Who's the second best team in the Central? Can any of them contend with the Brewers? Right now, if you're just judging on who's been playing good baseball as of late, it is the Reds. They've won 7 in a row. They swept the Cubs in a 4-game series. How does Craig Counsell like being on that side to be a Cubs manager now, instead of being the Brewers manager, seeing how that whole thing is shaken out? But they also swept your Rockies in there, so I'm sure you got to see it firsthand. What's been going right for this Reds team?
They just have no quit in them. They're fighters, and they've got some interesting pieces that really aren't that loud. It's funny because Ellie De La Cruz did homer in one of the games. He did steal a base, but it felt quiet. And as I went back and look at game notes, it's like, oh, he was 3 for 5 today. It's like, oh yeah, just ho hum, and seeing him take a ground ball, go 6-3 over to first base, it's like he's in slow motion because he's not trying to throw it 106.9 miles an hour. So he's impressive to say the least. Even though, despite the fact that in batting practice he's like popping balls up to the top of the turtle's shell and taking pitches. But no, the Reds are finally doing the thing that everyone was kind of expecting them to do this season after taking a step forward last year in a really big way, winning 80 plus. And then this year being one of those teams that you could see maybe in the NL Central making some noise. And it took them a while to heat up. Hunter Green as the ace of that staff, still only 24 years old, despite it seeming like he's been around, that much longer. So he's been incredible for them. And they've been just getting quality play out of that veteran crew. I mean, I almost want to lump Spencer Steer in there, but this is only his second season. Jonathan India is back, and so I don't know if they got shook just a little bit early on in the year without having Noelvi Marte and just kind of feeling some of the reverberations from that. But they've definitely turned some things around. I want to say maybe even last week with Clay Snowden that in previewing the series was like, hey, is the Cubs Reds? Is this going to be a series for the Reds to kind of turn things around, knowing that they were going to come into Colorado? They ended up sweeping. Rockies gave up 5 runs for the 5th time in the 9th inning or later. Embarrassing for the sweep, and then playing the Cubs again. So Reds absolutely did that thing where they've completely turned their season around. Now are just 2 games under 500.
Yeah, they've looked great. And the crazy thing is, I was diving into the last couple weeks in particular. I'm like, all right, they're getting some great pitching. Not really the case. Nick Lodolo is the exception. Nick Lodolo has been unbelievable. 2.92 ERA in the year. Finally healthy after last year struggling with that. He's won each of his last 3 starts, and the last 2 he's gone 6 innings each time against the Cubs. So that's big time when you have a guy going up against your rival and getting the job done the way Lodolo has. But it's also been Jaimer Candelario, Jonathan India, TJ Friedel, Will Benson. It's not necessarily the top end stars. It's not just Ellie De La Cruz going crazy. It's a collective effort on offense. And over the last 15 days, they had the 4th best team OPS in baseball. So they're doing it offensively. And the clock is starting to tick on the rest of that suspension for Marte. You should have him back, I think, maybe by the end of this month. What was it, 81 game suspension? So maybe got 20 some odd games left. It's getting close, and that's going to really give them a lift. I'm not sure where Matt McClain is, but if you get him back at some point, like they're a team where they don't even necessarily have to be aggressive at the deadline. They just need to get their guys healthy, and they can make a run. Although I do think they are a team that needs to get some more starting pitching at this deadline, even if it's the Eric Fetties of the world. Like, just plug in some more dependable arms, because I think that'll help them really be able to outlast in this wild card race. But if you're looking at the rest of that Central Division, I think they might be the most fun team to sort of hop on that bandwagon, because when they get going, it certainly seems like it's an entertaining ride.
Yeah, they just sent down Graham Ashcraft, so
Yeah.
starting pitching definitely is one of those areas that they could look to improve. And they've got players with special tools, elite tools. Blake Dunn just got called up. He's a speed merchant. Fernando Cruz has been one of the best set of men in all of baseball, and he's a interesting story. A guy, playing in independent leagues, and now again is elite there, setting up for Alexis Diaz, brother of, help me out here, Edwin Diaz.
Edwin, yeah.
Oh, what do you know?
Who's pitching in Brooklyn right now in single A rehab. So
I should have said Alexis Diaz, the 2016 World Baseball Classic closer for Team Puerto Rico, because is Edwin Diaz ever going to be allowed to do that again?
no,
I don't think so.
no chance. No chance.
chance. Yeah, but the Reds have been everything kind of that we hope for them to be, and Ellie was really quiet after that 4 stolen base game that he had over the course of about 16 or so games. He had like 2 steals. So he kind of, the league was, I think, figuring him out just a little bit, and now he's kind of started to figure out some things, and it's nice to see the Reds getting in that mix just a little bit here in the NL Central.
Yeah, I think they are right now the team of that group that I like the most. The Cardinals, they shot up, then they started to fade back a little bit. The Cubs are the team that we're all sort of waiting on to put it all together. And I wouldn't count them out to do that. I also wouldn't count them out to be very aggressive at the deadline. They have the type of farm system where they can make some big moves and try to put themselves right back into that conversation. But it is pretty crazy. Here we are, getting towards the middle of June, and it's becoming a foregone conclusion that the Brewers are going to win that division. And I mean, yes, there's still time for one of these other teams to sneak in there, but it's amazing how much they have separated themselves from the pack. When I still, if you like, all right, Patrick, let me ask you, can you name me 3 starting pitchers in the Milwaukee Brewers rotation right now?
Pass. All right, we've got Freddie Peralta. I'm showing my ass here on this one. All right, Freddie Peralta. I imagine maybe Aaron Ashby has gotten called back up again. Yes?
Maybe.
Oh, you don't even know?
I don't know. I tossed the
Alex
grenade to you.
Trebek and be like, guys, that feels right. Yeah, all right. You have control of the board. You got.
I tossed the grenade to you, and then I was gonna when I knew you'd fail, I was gonna throw. I know Colin Ray's in the rotation. I know that one.
Yes, REA.
REA, Colin Ray. I think I was calling him Colin Rea until I actually watched him pitch and heard the broadcast. Okay, yeah, there's no chance. I'm looking at roster resource. You have no chance to get these names. Ashby not in the rotation. It's Bryce Wilson right now.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Rodriguez will start on Tuesday, June 11th.
Did not have him on my board.
Don't know who he is. Tobias Myers.
There we go.
And
Tobias.
I mean, it's Peralta, and then who knows? How do they win these games? How do you win? I mean, they have a great bullpen, clearly, but it is pretty nuts what the Brewers have done this year.
They've had 6 guys on the IL that I think a lot of fans probably have heard of. Like, okay, Brandon Woodruff, we know.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy John. Wade Miley, still around. He's 49 years old at this point. Joe Ross. Yeah, that Joe Ross that disappeared and then came back. 4th on the notable name list. I'm actually going to give Jacob Junis a little love there on that as a swingman guy that, I think if he's healthy, he could be interesting. DL Hall, obviously a major piece in the Corbin Burns deal. And then Robert Gasser, who looks great in, just coming up from the minors. So yeah, 6 starters, not great right now.
The old 4-man rotation in Milwaukee and a lot of bullpen games, and it's working for them. It's working. It's they've had 11 guys make a start this year. That's because a lot of them are opener situations, but getting the job done. But it's pretty impressive. Cincinnati, meanwhile, has a better rotation and can't sniff the Brewers right now. But you win. You take this 7-game winning streak. You turn it into 15. You never know. Maybe the Reds do make it a conversation by the end of the season.
It's interesting that you said, and I agree with you, but that the Brewers, foregone conclusion, they're going to win the division. I agree. But in the National League, they've got the smallest lead over second place. They're 6.5 games ahead of the Cubs. And then you've got the Dodgers are 8 games ahead of the Padres, and Phillies are 9 games ahead of Atlanta. So it's the smallest lead, but still, but it's bigger than everyone in the American League. So, yeah, and I think the Brewers are going to win the Central.
They're the only team in the Central currently with a record over 500. The rest of those teams, all right around, I think they're all like actually exactly 2 games under. and the Pirates 3. So they're all. I mean, we don't even talk about the Pirates, and they got the best starting pitching in this division probably with
Oh yeah.
Skeens and Jones. So you really don't know. I mean, it really is anyone's division. I think those other 4 teams are playing for wild cards, but I mean, we just read off that Brewers rotation. There is a world where the lineup falls off, the bullpen's not as good, and they can go through like a clear slump as a team. It probably isn't as much of a foregone conclusion as I made it out to seem, but that's just how well they've played up to this point.
No, I think consistency is such a key part of being successful right now in 2024 with injuries and kind of sustaining that and having a next man up, policy, so to speak, and being able to do that. Because right now, other than the Rockies and Marlins in the National League, everybody's within 3 games of that wild card spot. And so there's obviously some tough questions that have to be answered come trade deadline. I think, the Mets, where they're at right now, third from the bottom, it's going to be easy, I think, for them to sell, seen as though that's kind of part of that plan. But all the other teams, you could see them trying to maybe hold pat just a little bit. The Nationals, not quite as much. They're fourth from the bottom. But everybody else, hey, you know what? You need to go out, and this is a year for the Diamondbacks. We're kind of really counting on going to back-to-back postseasons, and San Francisco is invested in St. Louis after their first losing season in a very long time in 2023. They're not looking to cash out their chips either. So it's just about that consistency and really trying to do the best with what you can when your star players go down, which has been, far too frequent throughout the game right now.
Yeah, no, it creates for an insane finish. It creates for crazy deadlines too, because you mentioned the Mets as potential sellers, and I think they might be motivated by what they can get. Where you just get to a point where you're just, even if the Mets were sitting this exact same spot, if they were 2 games out, even closer, if they're about to get a haul for Luis Severino and Sean Manaea and JD Martin, like they might be like, all right, well, we might as well take advantage of this opportunity because you don't know how many chances you get at this type of a seller's market. That's what's going to make our next episode so interesting, because we're already breaking down the top 25 free agent, or excuse me, trade value assets as we write the article over at Just Baseball. So make sure you check that out. We're going to come to you some point midweek. If you're listening on the audio side, thank you. If you're not, you're watching on YouTube, hey, you can listen as well. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube, where you have the smaller clips of the show that we break up as well as the full episodes. Follow us at Who's Better BB. We'll be back talking trade deadline on the show later this week.